Everybody, it is Brian Nemhauser, and we're back for Real Hawk Talk. It has been, for me, it feels like it's been ages, at least a couple of weeks, and happy to be back. It's day before Thanksgiving, and with us, hopefully there's no power outages or other things that come along, is Nathan Ernst. How are you doing, Nathan?
Pretty good. I've had some bad luck with this the last couple of weeks, but I'm here. Hopefully I will stay here. Should be good to go.
Cool. We're hoping to be joined by Jeff a little bit later, as well as Will Cornell. Evan, for folks that are wondering where Evan is, ever since he made the pledge to tattoo his nipples with Rashad Penny's eyes, I don't know that Evan has made an appearance. So I think he won't be here tonight. He claims it's due to wedding duties and other things that are going on. We'll see about that. But anyway, we've got a lot to talk about, Nathan. It's been it's been a little bit of a chaotic week of football. Hey, Jeff, welcome. Can you hear us, Jeff?
Sorry.
No worries. We already got started. You got a little bit of a max headroom thing going on, but maybe get your headphones in at some point. We'll get you hooked up. So what we're going to cover today, we'll definitely talk about the Packers win, the win over the Packers. That was a big game, and hadn't had a chance to talk, even though it feels like literally a week ago. I'll talk a little bit about this gauntlet that the Seahawks have been going through of these tough games, of which this game against Carolina included. Talk a little bit about Rashad Penny, and it's without Evan here, so that should be fun. Going to ask you guys about what you think is the biggest question mark on this team right now, as well as what you think the area that you have the most confidence in. And then we'll get into the matchup with the Panthers and take some Q&A from folks joining in the pod and look at that. And we'll always come back to what we got wrong. So, Jeff, you all good to go? You can do a sound check here real quick. You say something?
Yeah.
All right, good. It's a little bit of delay.
I'm having technical problems. You hear me now?
Yeah, I think so. And there's Will. Welcome to the show, dude.
Come on, guys.
Good. So Will, you're last in first. We're gonna go LIFO here. So what was your reaction to the Packers game? How did it go relative to your expectations?
It went pretty relatively close to my expectations. I thought it was going to be a close game. In many ways, I kind of see these teams as being the same kind of level. So I thought it could have gone either way. I think you'd have played that game 10 times. It could probably split. I think being at home helped Seattle. And I really thought we were going to shut Aaron Rodgers down, though. That was kind of like the first time that I remember him gashing us at home. Usually we play him pretty well. Some of his throws were pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, on both sides of that. Nathan, I don't know if I've ever seen a game where Aaron Rodgers was throwing 3-yard passes into the ground. What did you make of his performance in general?
I think people are overreacting to a couple of bad plays. I think he played a really good game overall. And he had some unbelievable throws. The touchdown to Tanyan, or whatever that guy's name is, was one of the more ridiculous throws I think I've seen this year. And he has kind of a laundry list of those type of plays. So he totally biffed it when the game was on the line on that third down pass, and that was pretty inexcusable. But I thought he played. I think that those kind of things are outweighing people's perception of his overall game.
Yeah, were you surprised that the Seahawks won that game?
Kind of. Going into it, I was very confident that the Seahawks would win, and I thought that they might win fairly big. But then when they fell down, what were they, 14-3 at one point? At that point, it seemed like that game was going to be a tough one to come back and get. So yeah, in the end, I was pretty surprised to see him pull it off.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the Seahawks do not seem to be built to come back that often, and I think we've talked about that. So far this year, we haven't seen as much from Russell Wilson being able to complete those comebacks, but in this case, they did. And I mean, they were ahead. If I'm remembering right, they pulled ahead in the second quarter. Like from being down 14-3 in the first quarter, they were ahead 17-14, I want to say, for the second quarter. So they came back pretty quickly. Then they fell behind again, and they had to come back again and had to come back late. So I think that was nice to see. And I thought the Packers defense played pretty well in general. I think they struggled on a couple of the running plays, and I think they struggled with Tyler Lockett primarily. But other than that, I thought the Packers defense actually came out and played a pretty good game. Jeff, gonna give you a shot again. Any big takeaways or reactions from the win over the Packers?
Yeah, I overall I liked the game, and I thought that a lot of it came from the Packers screw-ups, to be honest. The Seahawks were great in the second half. The big takeaway is that the offense is better than a. Can you hear me?
Your connection is
That's bad.
It's struggling.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. You might have to see if there's anything you can do about that. We got that you had a big takeaway and then a pause, a very dramatic pause. So I was excited to hear, but I think we're gonna have to wait on that. I'm curious. As you guys look at that, we talked about this 4-game stretch before it started, and it was going to be home against the Chargers. It was going to be at the Rams, home against the Packers, and at the Panthers. And as of right now, the Seahawks stand 1-2 with a chance to go 2-2. If they manage to go 2-2 through this stretch, what does that mean? What would be your takeaway if they were able to achieve that? Will, why don't we start with you?
I said kind of going into this 4-game stretch that if we were able to split, I would be happy. Only because it's pretty grim looking in. Not much would change for me though if we're able to split and beat Carolina this week. Only because that's kind of what I expected. I think if we were a little bit better of a team, I think you'd expect to go 3-1. I think 4-0 is kind of, I don't think that's unrealistic to expect, but I don't think much would change for me. I think that 2-2 kind of is a good indication of where we're at right now.
So Nathan, they started out 0-2, losing that Chargers game and losing the Rams game. Season was looking pretty precarious at that point. Do you feel like the Seahawks become legitimate playoff contenders with a win against Carolina, or do you think it's pivotal in that way?
Oh, absolutely. I think if they beat Carolina, they are more or less in the driver's seat for a playoff spot, right? I mean, if they beat Carolina, they have a tiebreaker over them, and then they get the 2 gimmies against San Francisco and the 3rd gimme against Arizona. That puts them at 9 wins. I think that puts them in a really nice spot. So if they end up going 2-2 and beat Carolina this week, then I think I'd be pretty disappointed at that point if they don't end up finding a way into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think for folks that haven't been following along, so they basically have tiebreakers over a lot of the teams that they're playing against or contending with for the playoffs already. They get the Vikings at home a little bit later, but if they win this game against the Panthers, essentially the Seahawks control their own destiny. I think that even the game against the Vikings, I think because they have a tie, it's going to be really hard for that to be a tiebreaker type of situation. It's just a matter of who has more wins. But the Panthers definitely they could end up with a tie in a tie situation. So I I don't know the exact numbers. Maybe Nathan, you do, but I think if they win this game, I think the Seahawks playoff odds definitely go well north of 50% and start getting into 60 plus. Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't know off the top of my head what the percentage is, but I think it's significant.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a big game. I was super disappointed. I don't know if I even had a chance to talk to you guys since the Chargers game. The Chargers game for me was a big step back. That was a situation where the Seahawks had just had their most convincing win in Detroit, and we're coming home, and we're gonna have 5 of their final 7 games at home, and laid an egg. I mean, they came out. Russell Wilson played, I think, his worst game of the season, arguably, and I think that largely him and Brian Schottenheimer cost the team that game. I mean, the Chargers played really well, but I think the Seahawks absolutely could have won that game if they came out and played more sensibly than they did. And then you go down to LA, and they played a great game. I mean, the defense struggled mightily, but they were right there at the end with a chance to win that game, and ended up losing it. So, yeah, I mean, I was definitely impressed with their ability to come back against the Packers. At the beginning of the season, Jeff, I think everybody, you, Nathan, and Evan all picked the Seahawks to beat the Panthers in Carolina. I picked them to lose. And I'm curious, given where things are right now, where's your head at?
Does my sound work?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about the technical errors. I've been having trouble all night. We got our first snow tonight, and it's screwing up our cable and our internet.
Well, let's keep going while you can go. So
okay. Anyway, so I think I have no idea what to expect from this game. Right when I thought the Panthers were pretty good, they were pretty bad again.
We're losing you again, Jeff. I think the snow's getting the better of
now. I think
in the north. Sorry, dude. So we're going to be taking some questions from folks in the chat pod. So if people have questions, feel free to start asking them, and I'll get to them a little bit later. But one of the players that's actually stepped up the past couple of games is Rashad Penny. And I'll start by saying he's a guy that I've been pretty hard on, and been looking for an opportunity for him to show anything of real interest. Nathan, as a aficionado of the run game and of running backs, what's your impression of what you're seeing from Rashad right now?
He looks like a professional back. I think that's maybe a step up from what he was looking like earlier. Mm-hmm. I don't know that he looks especially impressive right now, but he's kind of doing the same stuff he did in college. Like when you watch his college tape, I think I've talked about this a lot now. He would make these little moves that would leave defenders kind of grasping at his ankles or grasping at his legs, and kind of a lot of times grasping air. And you're seeing that now. He did that on that crazy cutback run. He did that. He had a really nice move on the play where Russ got out and kind of was lead blocking for him. So it's still a little early. I think he's doing the things that I was kind of thinking he would do coming out of college when I was a little bit more optimistic about him. But considering how bad he looked the first few weeks, I think it still bears a little wait and see with him. But I mean, he doesn't look like some epic bust or anything at this point. I think it's still to be seen whether he's really gonna even approach making that pick look okay just from where he was taken. But he does look at least serviceable, and you can kind of see the potential.
Yeah, well, there was an article written about him in the Seattle Times, and I think it was Bob Condotta's article. And there was a quote that jumped out, a couple quotes that jumped out at me. I'm going to read you one of them. So at San Diego State, he ran a system which the quarterback was under center and Penny was used out of the I formation. We usually ran forward behind, quote, an offensive line making bigger holes than you'd expect. That's Penny's quote. He also had a quote earlier about, I've just got to stay warm on the sidelines. I'm not used to playing in cold weather like that. He was kind of blaming his injury on his twisted ankle on that. You know, how much do you think Penny was a product of his offensive line in college, and how much do you think that maybe this is just an adjustment to a different style of play in the pros?
Well, I think the Rams game might have been an indication of that, only because I know a lot of people got really excited after that Rams performance, and I mean, I think there was reason to be, just because we hadn't seen much from him, before that. But you kind of look at those plays; those holes were pretty wide open, and he did what you'd expect out of any professional running back. I think we just got excited because, again, we just hadn't seen literally anything from him before. I think at the same time we gave up on him a little bit too quickly. We as a fan base were so ready to write him off after such a small sample size, and I think it might have been a little unfair. Now, granted, I don't think he had a lot of help considering that the guy in front of him has been pretty fantastic, Chris Carson. But I'm optimistic. I feel a lot more optimistic than I was, weeks ago.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to me, like, the difference between writing somebody off and clearly stating that one player has earned more opportunity and another player has not seems to get lost, I think, in nuance here. I think Penny had gotten a lot of opportunities and hadn't done anything with them. And now he's done something with the opportunities he got. And I mean, one of the things that's continues to be super frustrating with the Seahawks is figuring out what their plan is for when a running back starts playing better. Penny actually started playing well in that Rams game, and he didn't play the rest of the half. Like, after that drive where he had 2 explosive runs, got into the end zone, clearly was finding himself, he didn't play again until almost, the last play of the first half. So I don't really understand. Pete Carroll talks about, playing the hot hand, but I don't really see a lot of evidence of them doing that so far this season. So, I'm not exactly sure who's making those calls, but it seems odd. And I don't know about you guys. I'm curious. J.D. McKissic will not be back this week, but he started practicing. J.D. McKissic was a guy that, like Chris Carson, was one of the few players that averaged. I think he was one of only 2 players that averaged over 4 yards a carry behind that offensive line and Tom Cable's run game and all that stuff last season. He also is unique in his ability to make plays out of the backfield as a receiver, and he's a special teamer. Assuming that he is going to be back and healthy in the next few weeks, he's starting to practice this week. Nathan, do you want him to take any of the reps from any of the 3 primary running backs getting reps right now?
Yeah, I'd love to see him get run over Mike Davis. He was the significantly better player last year. And, I mean, at the very least, it's worth seeing if he can be significantly better than Davis again this year, or if he's still just even better. So I would definitely look to him to take some of those the third down back snaps and see if he can kind of take the job and run with it.
Jeff wants you to know that your beard looks badass, by the way. I was kind of curious if you were doing Movember. I think you said you're just letting
it go. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you going ZZ Top level, or where are you going to let it stop?
I don't know. I'm just going to let it go, and we'll see what happens.
So
far, it's been slow. It's not. I feel like it's not really growing much anymore. So I don't know. It's maybe maxed out.
I was trying for this month, man, and I couldn't do it. It was driving me crazy. I had to shave. But when you said, Nathan, that McKissic was clearly the better player between him and Davis last year, say more about that. What, from an analytics perspective, or from a just film perspective?
Both. I think he, in terms of being significantly better, that's definitely an analytics thing. By all measures, Mike Davis had a really rough year last year, and I mean, obviously, that wasn't all about Mike Davis. And but J.D. McKissic was actually one of he performed pretty well, just relative to the league in terms of things like success rate and EPA per play. And like you said, I think he had a pretty, a decent, what was his yards per carry? It was a little over 4, right?
Something like that.
4.1. Yeah, exactly. So, from a stats perspective, he definitely outplayed or outproduced Mike Davis. And then I thought he looked good just from film wise too. Like, he's clearly a talented player. It's kind of funny because he's a guy that didn't really test all that great in the combine, but came in with a reputation for being really athletic. And I think he, shows that on the field. So he's one of those guys that kind of maybe outperforms his combine numbers, or maybe what you'd expect from just looking at those. So then he catches the ball really well. Mike Davis, I think he's been a fine player. I think he's played, he stepped up well in that Arizona game. I don't want to take anything away from him, but Mike Davis is not a prototypical third down back, right? And so these, dink and dunk 2-minute drives that Shoddy wants to run, do those look a little different when you're dinking and dunking to J.D. McKissic instead of to Mike Davis? Yeah, maybe. And so I'd be interested to just see it from that perspective too.
Yeah, I mean, watching even in preseason and training camp this year, McKissic was always obvious when he was getting the ball. He's a blur. His acceleration is different than any other backs. I have this instinct that he'd be a 5-yard a carry plus guy in this offense with this offensive line. And I think he's more dynamic. He's definitely more dynamic as a receiver out of the backfield and can do more things. Plus, he's a fun player to watch. I mean, I think he's a playmaker. So I'm with you. I'm curious, Will. One, do you have any thoughts about McKissic? And let's start there.
I'm sorry. Say that again. I kind of lost connection there for a sec.
Yeah. Do you? What are your thoughts about McKissic? Do you want to see him take any of the reps, or do you feel like you're happy with the 3 guys that they got?
Well, I'm happy with the 3 guys, but I'd like to see a little bit of McKissic. I think they've used him pretty well in the past as a third down back, and he seems to provide a spark on occasion. So yeah, I'd like to see a little bit of him at the least.
So there's a question in the chat here from Bennett, who's asking if we have any thoughts regarding the fumbling for Chris Carson. Do you think it's he fumbled on the first play against the Packers? He had another fumble earlier this year. Does it give either one of you any pause about him continuing to be the featured back?
Nothing really changes much for me. I definitely have noticed just his habit to fumble on occasion, but I don't know. He's just, in my opinion, I think he's so much better of an athlete than the other 2 guys. I think you got to have him out there. And I've gone back and forth with so many people on this. I just think that he is a different style of athlete than the other 2, and he's just in his own category in that regard.
How about you, Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, the fumbles don't worry me too much. The only thing that worries me about it is that coaches tend to have near zero tolerance for fumbles. So I'd hate to see him end up in a doghouse and on a team with so many backs and mouth to feed and all that I could see that happening. And I agree. I think he's, clearly the best player, the best running back on this team. And I think I think it would be a disservice to the team if they benched him. They were pretty patient with Marshawn. Marshawn fumbled a lot. I mean, I don't know. He had 5 in 2012, 4 in both 2013 and 2014. I don't know what that is relative to the league, but it felt like a lot. And I think it's more than usually see most running backs kind of get leash for. But he also didn't have nearly the competition and was a better player than Carson is. So it'll be interesting to see how Pete reacts to it. I think so far there hasn't been any kind of doghousing because of it, but we'll see.
Yeah, so I'm curious as we talk through, the team in this. They're 5-5. They have 6 games left in this season. We've seen, some strengths emerge, some real question marks. As it stands right now, what's the biggest question mark you've got about this team and their ability to be a quality NFL playoff team? What's your biggest question mark? And Nathan, let's start with you.
It's still Schottenheimer for me. I mean, I think the reason why it's the biggest concern for me is because this team's going to change a lot between this year and next year. Let's hope it does. They're going to have a ton of cash come free. They're going to probably pursue a couple big free agents. They're going to have another draft. I think this team is going to really, grow. And I think that you can look at this, how they're playing this year, and kind of project a leap to where maybe they're going to be, opening up another Super Bowl window next year. So maybe it's going to be more of a 2012 than a real Super Bowl window, but that 2012 team was damn good. But the one thing that's not going to change is Brian Schottenheimer. And so can he put together an offense? Right now it's working. They're running and passing about 50-50, but they're still relying on a lot of heroics from Russell, even though the running game has been legitimately, I think. So, this is one where I still don't have a lot of faith in Schottenheimer to be able to put together a cogent passing attack. I haven't seen very convincing kind of 2-minute or, quick drives when they've needed those. And so I think it's the biggest question mark just going forward, because, like that Monday night game the other night was an aberration. We're not going to see 50-50, 50-point games or teams where both teams score 50 points, that often. But the league is going a different way, and the league is getting smarter every year about offense and scoring points. And right now, this is you can kind of see where it can work with Schottenheimer, and you can kind of see even with a heavy running approach where they can kind of, slow things down a little bit and keep things within reach. But they still gave up 30 plus points those times. So to me, that's the biggest question mark, and it's not just about this year; it's about the coming years too.
So that's the interesting thing, Nathan. Like I retweeted something from Pete this week from his presser. I think it was yesterday or whenever it was. But I think someone asked him about whether he minds going a different direction while everyone's clearly going, pass heavy and scoring. And he's focusing on the run, and he was like, "No, I love it. I'm happy to go. I don't mind being different." We've heard this from him before. I've heard, multiple times that he and Schneider actually relish being unconventional. And the question is, sometimes do they get infatuated with being unconventional and, set aside some pretty obvious things they could do that are with convention that could make them better? I do have that question about them, but my biggest question mark about this team is actually the defense. Like, I don't have confidence at all. I put out a Twitter poll before they played the Lions asking Seahawks fans, do you feel that this is a good defense? And I think it was like over 90% of respondents thought that they were a good defense. Seahawks were like top 5 ranked at that point. I didn't believe in them. I just didn't. I don't see the talent there. I don't see the quality. And then they went into Detroit and they actually shut them down. And I thought, like, whoa, maybe they're better than I thought. Turns out Detroit's a lot worse, so the defense has looked pretty, they've looked incapable of stopping a good offense the last few weeks. But at the same time, I can say second half of the Chargers game, they didn't allow any points. Second half of the Packers game, they only allowed 3 points. So there's like these moments of like, I can find some strength, but when I look at the team, like we'll talk about it going into this week, they're playing a Panthers team that's ranked 3rd in the NFL in rushing, and they're 28th, I think, something like that. And I just don't have a ton of confidence in the Seahawks' ability to stand up and stop the run. And if they can't stop the run, I definitely don't have confidence that they can then, stop a quality passer from moving the ball down the field. I still don't have confidence in these corners. I feel like Shaquille and Trey Flowers are liabilities right now. And, the safeties haven't necessarily stepped up recently. So anyway, I've got a lot of questions on defense. And that's where my biggest questions lie. Will, how about you?
Yeah, my answer was gonna be on the defensive side as well. I think my answer would probably have questions about their consistency from a front office standpoint. I think right now, I guess it kind of depends on where you guys are at, but you're either kind of glass half full or glass half empty right now with this team. And I think that we could all kind of agree that we're at least a fine team. I don't know that we're good. I wouldn't call us great. I don't know that we're a bad team right now either.
5, dude.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
We are.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like kind of depends on what side of the fence you choose to stay on. But I just kind of wonder if they'll be able to be consistent enough to build on what seems to be at least a decent foundation right now. I mean, I do agree with you. I think we've got a lot of liabilities on defense. I think it's something they can still build on. I think they've got some young guys that they can add to in future drafts and in future off seasons. And I guess I'm just curious if they're going to be able to hit like they used to. And by no means do I mean hit grand slams like they did in 2012 and 13, but just to have some solid drafts. And I think this most recent one is a good example of that. I'd like to see more of that. And I think if they can continue building this team from where it is now, I'd like to think that we could be great again.
So I'll turn it back around to you. What's the part of this team that you have the most confidence in right now, that you feel like regardless of opponent, you feel confident they're going to do well?
Russell Wilson. That might be the obvious answer, but I mean, the guy's just been a pillar of consistency since he's been in the league, and Russell's just always been that guy that to me as a fan gives me belief that we can still win any game, even when we don't have a shot. So I think if you build around that, the rest is history.
I wish I could say Russell Wilson was the thing I had the most confidence in. I'm not there yet. I mean, I feel like he's been more up and down this last few games than I would like to have seen from him, but especially the Chargers game is still fresh in my mind. But for me, it's the offensive line and the running game, which is crazy to say considering where this team was just the last couple of years. But 7 games in a row, 155 yards or more rushing, something like that. That's a pretty rare feat, and they're doing it from the opening snap and all the way through for the most part. So, Nathan, where do you have is there one part of the team where you feel really confident week in, week out?
It's Russ. I mean, he is not having his best year, probably. He's had a few bad turnovers, especially bad plays. But, I mean, I don't know. Like, I think we get a little myopic about Russ. Like, yeah, he sailed the ball over Doug's head. That was really bad. Aaron Rodgers threw a third down play with the game on the line, the ball in the dirt. Patrick Mahomes had 2 drives at the end of the Monday Night Football game and threw picks on both of them. We saw Goff airmail a couple balls in the Rams game, right? We saw Phillip Rivers get shut down in the second half of the Seahawks game. The only guy right now that's really playing perfect football is Breeze, probably, and that'll go away. He'll come back down there. He'll still be Breeze. He'll still be awesome, but we expect so much of Russell sometimes, and I think we forget too that he's still adapting to a new offensive coordinator. I mean, people expected him to kind of pick up this year and be amazing, and there was a learning curve. And we joke about the accountability stuff and how he's not running anymore, but I think that there's a little bit of a learning curve there right now, where they're asking him to do some stuff, and I don't think he always feels 100% confident with it. But I think it's coming. I think it's getting better. And so, I don't think there's any question that the pillar of this football team is Russell Wilson. There's other good stuff about it, but I don't know what else there is. The running game is nice and all that, but we've seen that fall short against the better teams that they've played against. So to me, it's Russ.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, let's transition and talk a little bit more about. Let's go deep dive on the Carolina game. This is such a big game. I think it's worth spending a little more time on, and as people in the chat have been asking some questions, but I'll give you guys some numbers here and let's get your reactions to them. So first one is Seattle is 1-4 this season when allowing 3 or more explosive rushes. That's 12 plus yards by Pete Carroll's definition of an explosive rush. So they're 1-4 this season when they allow opponents to get 3 or more explosive rushes. Carolina has had at least 3 explosive rushes in every game but 2 this season, and they lost both of those contests. What do you think the chances are that the Seahawks hold the Panthers to less than 3 explosive rushes in this game?
How are we defining an explosive rush?
12 plus.
What are we doing?
12 a rush.
All right, I'm going to let this slide. There's the whole 12-15 thing for rushing and passing. A little silly.
Well, Pete Carroll's definition. I've used Pete's because that's how he does it. 16 for pass, 12 for rush is how he does it.
What was it, over under 3?
3 is yeah. Can they hold the Panthers under 3? What's the chances?
I don't think so. I mean, Cam makes that hard, I think. That there's a good chance that he'll just, bust off 1 or 2 kind of longer runs. So I doubt it.
How about you, Will?
Yeah, I'd say it looks pretty grim as well. Christian McCaffrey is so explosive in both elements of his game. I'd say it looks grim. It's my gut answer.
Yeah, I think this seems highly unlikely. I'd expect the Panthers to have, 5 or more, as seems right. For people that are curious, over the past few games for the Seahawks in terms of opponents, the Packers actually had no explosive runs. The Rams had 3. The Chargers had 6. Detroit had 0. Oakland had 2. The Rams the first time had 4. So, Seahawks are generally giving up to these better offenses, 3 or more. So it feels likely. But flip side, let's talk about another one here. So Carolina actually has a lot of trouble rushing the passer. They do have names like Julius Pepper, but the guy's almost 39 years old. Mario Addison is the other side. He's going to be going against Dwayne Brown. He's got 8 sacks, but not a particularly efficient pass rusher. Seattle's 4
Mario Addison is actually a very good pass rusher. He's like top 10 in sacks over the past 3 years. He's underrated, but he's very good.
Yeah, it depends. If we're talking about this year, he's okay in terms of total pressures for the amount of pass rush snaps he's got. He's middle of the league for his role. So that be told, Seattle's 4-1 when Russell Wilson is sacked 2 times or less this year. So it's half the games they've played, they've held the opponent to sacking them 2 times or less. The Panthers have sacked opposing quarterbacks 2 times or less in 6 of their 10 games. Okay, so almost over 50% of the Panthers games they've recorded 2 sacks or less. What's more likely? Do you think that the Seahawks can pass block the Panthers well enough to hold them to 2 sacks or less?
Yeah, I think just based on the numbers you gave us right there, I'd say it would be pretty likely, right? And just based on how this offensive line has been playing, I'd say it's likely.
Yeah, I don't know. This feels like something that depends a lot on game script. And so if Seattle falls behind, then they're probably more likely to pass, or they're more likely to get sacked. So then their numbers look bad because they were behind in the first place. So, the whole 2 sacks thing, I don't know how much stock I put into it. I love Russ, and he was the pillar of the team. He takes, he takes bad sacks. So trying to get out of a game with 2, against a team that is good and that a team that you might be trailing against at times on the road and all that doesn't seem super likely.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've dug into the Panthers pass defense in there. Panthers defense in general is it's not the same as the Seahawks defense, but in some ways it's almost like a year behind. It feels like they're going to need to do a total makeover. Thomas Davis is 35 and is definitely slowing down. Luke Kuechly is not having a great year. He's good, but he's not great. He's missed 8 tackles already. The secondary is pretty weak. You're talking about Captain Munnerlyn. What are the other corners? 1 second. I got to
They have a guy I like, and I can't remember his name now. Right now. Yeah, him. I like him.
James Bradbury, and then Dante Jackson. Bradbury seems okay, but I mean, he is giving up, 107 passer rating this year and 5 touchdowns. So he's certainly not flawless. So I don't know. I mean, the Seahawks, like I said, the Seahawks have gone, in half their games, they've given up 2 sacks or less. And they've faced a lot of teams that were much better pass rushing teams than this one is. So I'd say, 60% chance the Seahawks end up pulling that off. So let's play this then. So let's assume for a second that the Seahawks hold the Panthers to 2 sacks or less, and they give up 3 or more explosive rushes. Who wins the game?
Oh, Seattle. If Seattle is sacked less than 2 times?
Yes.
Yeah, they win.
Will you feel any different?
Oh, no, not at all. I think if you're able to accomplish both of those things, it looks pretty good for you. Give 70-80% chance of a win at that point.
So here's an interesting piece, and I'm not surprised, Nathan, that you feel that way, given
my proclivities.
Your proclivities. So I mentioned that the Seahawks have had over 150 yards rushing in 7 straight games. When I was looking at Seahawks opponents, over that time, and there's a little bit of an impact here, the fact that the Seahawks offense is rushing really well and affecting opponents' rush rankings. But if you look at a rush efficiency rating, like this is like DVOA kind of style, it's not from Football Outsiders, it's from Sharp Football Stats. But if you look at defensive run efficiency, their last 6 opponents that the Seahawks have played have been ranked. Hold on, I thought I had it right in front of me. No opponent ranked higher.
Only good
18th in run defense during that stretch. So they had
the Chargers.
Dallas was 26th. Oakland was 32nd. Detroit is 31st. So now you've got Carolina, who's actually 12th. They're a decent run defense. And I have some questions. If you look then at what they do on the pass, Carolina's like 25th in pass defense. And to your question earlier, Nathan, can Brian Schottenheimer adjust? Can he understand that this might not be the game to run the ball as often as they've been doing it before? My guess going in is the Seahawks are going to run into that brick wall over and over again, and it's going to take them at least a quarter before they realize, and they'll probably be behind before they realize that they have to switch over. But this is actually, the inverse of that is, if you look at it, this is the first time the Seahawks have been playing a pretty weak pass defense for at least the last 4 weeks. The Chargers were 13th. The Rams were 11th. The Packers were, I just lost it, but they were also pretty high. And the Packers were 15th. So 13th, 11th, and 15th. The only 3 times that the Seahawks have played a pass defense that's lower than 25th, those are their biggest wins: at Detroit, against Oakland, and home against Washington. So in that sense, this does set up pretty well for the Seahawks. What do you think makes sense from a game plan perspective, knowing who's calling the plays? What's a realistic way that you want to see this play out, Nathan?
Knowing who's calling the plays, I'd like to see him cool it a little bit on the 2nd and 10 runs. I'd like to see them, maintain that, what were they, 40% play action and against the Rams, the first Rams game. The first Rams game, were they over 50%? There was a game where they broke 50% play action, right? But anyways, a higher percentage of for them play action would be fantastic. Man, I don't know. I don't. They got to do something about their 2-minute offense. I don't know what the cure is there, but if they could just figure out something to make those 2-minute offenses just a little bit more potent, that would be fantastic. So I think that's my realistic. I mean, they're going to run it a lot. You're right. This is one of those teams that like they don't defend the pass well. They do defend. They're pretty good against the run. So, and hey, let's see more of Lockett on those end arounds and stuff like that too. So if you are going to run a lot, can we at least get some guys moving around to kind of get a little misdirection going, get defenders kind of leaning the wrong way and stuff like that. That would be awesome.
Will, who's the one, what's one matchup that you're looking at in this game that you think if the Seahawks can win it, that's going to be pivotal for the outcome?
I would say just receivers getting separation on those two corners, Bradbury and Jackson. So I think you got to look at, you got to expect a big game out of Tyler Lockett, and I'd say that you got to look his way. They do have some pretty good safety, Mike Adams, a pretty good young free safety, and Eric Reed's obviously, who Eric Reed is, but I'd say the biggest matchup, if you expect to get a win, is you got to torch those corners, and I know that they're infamous for being torched, so I'd hit them.
Yeah, Nathan, for me, the one that comes to mind is Doug Baldwin. I think Doug Baldwin's looking stronger and stronger. I really wasn't sure we'd see him look like he's looked the last couple of games throughout the season. I'm not sure he expected that either. This feels like a game that he could make a big impact. Curious if there's a specific matchup or specific player that you have in mind for the Seahawks that could be a make or break player.
Yeah, I don't know about matchup wise, but I mean, Lockett has been pretty unbelievable this year, and he's come up with some huge catches, some huge touchdowns. So I think he's kind of the guy where if he can have another really nice day, like he's been kind of churning out week in, week out, I think that's big. And then, like you said, Doug has looked good. You know who else has looked really good is Vanette.
Yeah.
He has caught, like, Russ has absolutely uncorked some passes to him in the end zone, and he's brought them both in. So that's been cool to see. And so if he can kind of keep showing up in the red zone and catching some of those lasers that Russ is throwing, that'd be cool too.
All right, so let's make some hot take predictions here. Mine is going to be that George Fant is not only going to catch his first pass of his career, but he's going to catch his first touchdown in this game. Tight end, slot receiver, George Fant.
That is going to be so insufferable on Twitter. I'm not a huge fan of the George Fant thing. Like,
oh my God, why not? He's fantastic.
I like players who can actually catch. I like rosters that are constructed in a way where you have enough tight ends to like put everybody out there and have real players playing real positions. Yeah.
Will, give Nathan a chance to think. Hot take prediction for you.
Not so much of a hot take as it is. I've been waiting all year for it to happen. I want to see a forced fumble by Shaquem Griffin. I want it desperately, at least some point in this year. If not this game, just give it to me later on in the year, just at some point. But I'll go with that hot take for this game.
Nathan, what's going to happen that no one's expecting?
That no one's expecting, huh?
It should involve Michael Dixon.
Yeah.
CJ Procise is going to score a touchdown in this game.
Oh, come on. You don't really believe that.
No, I don't, but it's a hot take and no one will see it.
Doesn't qualify. I believe George Fant's going to actually catch a touchdown. That's what's going on.
Well, my other one's too boring. Lockett's going to have some punt return.
Oh, that's a decent one. I mean, the Seahawks return game has been trash this year. I mean, do you guys you know where they rank? They are ranked 25th in the NFL in punt return yardage and yards per punt return, and 22nd in kick return. Like, that's horrible. I honestly, some of it's Lockett, but some of it's like he's got like 2 or 3 guys around him all the time. I feel like one coach that they didn't fire is one they should have, which is Brian Schneider, the special teams coach. Like, I would have been happy to have a fresh set of eyes on that part.
I want to go back to the CJ Procise thing though. Like, I don't believe it, but they have talked about the Procise package. Pete came out this week and had that weird comment because he hadn't said anything like or done anything that made us like our minds exploded, which he was like doing on a weekly basis at the start of the year. Right. And what did he say about Pro Sites? That it's just too bad that he hasn't that he's not more involved. He's really earned it, and it's like you're the coach, dude. If you want him involved, it's not hard to get the dude involved.
I know.
And okay, but we kind of talked about this before too, where sometimes it seems like they'll slow play things, and I don't think this is an uncommon thing across the NFL at all. I think it might be weird to have something at this point in the season that you haven't shown yet, but the CJ Pro Size package is one, and if you were going to break some weird stuff out, a road game with the playoff implications that this one has, I think maybe we see a CJ Pro Size touchdown in this game.
All right, you're talking yourself into it. I like it.
I am. I don't believe it at all, but I am talking myself into it.
I like it. Man, it would be nice to see because it has not been close to happening, that's for sure.
You know, it would be nice to see, and this is a room temperature take. It's not even a take. We will see Cam Newton put a towel over his head on Sunday, which I will
be glorious.
I love it every time.
You know what would be the best? It would be like better than seeing him put a towel on the head. It would be actually seeing Russell Wilson go to the post-game press conference dressed in a Cam Newton outfit.
That would be amazing.
Totally troll the hell out of him. That would be fantastic.
An impossibility.
Oh God! If he did like a Ryan Fitzpatrick kind of style, where he just goes and steals his clothes and put them on, oh my God!
I would be so huge on him. He'd look like a little kid. Cam's got like 6 inches and like 50 pounds on us, probably.
Russell Wilson wearing that Mary Poppins top hat or whatever the hell he wears.
The bolo, yeah, I don't know what's going on there. And somewhere someone's like saying Cam Newton's got the best fashion style around, and I don't know where they are, but I'm sure they exist. So, yeah, it's fun to have a game like this. It's a game that matters in a season that, honestly, a couple games into it, I don't think that most of us thought that there'd be a meaningful game 10 games into the season. And I think some of it's the Seahawks have played a little bit above their talent level. Some of it's been that the league is kind of the NFC is falling back to the Seahawks. To be 5-5, potentially be 1 win away from controlling your destiny into the playoffs.
They probably shouldn't go without saying how great that weekend was for Seattle.
Oh my God!
Because Carolina lost, Washington lost, and I mean, you never root for an injury, but them losing Alex Smith is going to be probably the nail in the coffin for them. So they're probably out of the race. The Falcons are just, I think they've been out of it for a little while, but I mean, they continue to spiral. And somebody else with Philly lost.
Philly lost. Washington lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even just this weekend. I mean, I thought the NFC was going to be so strong. I mean, people thought the Eagles were going to be great again. People thought the Vikings would be way better than they are. The Packers, Panthers, and Falcons. I mean, those are all pretty strong teams last year, and they've laid down. The NFC as a whole is just kind of outside of the Saints, and Bears are pretty good, but outside of the Rams and Saints, NFC is kind of wide open.
So if you guys had to pick the 2 Super Bowl teams right now, you're betting your house on it. You're betting the life of someone you love on it. Who are the 2 Super Bowl teams right now?
I'm going to go
New Orleans. Go ahead. Yeah, go for it.
I'm going to go with the Saints in the NFC, and I'm going to go with the Patriots in the AFC. And I know the popular 2 choices in the AFC right now are the Chiefs and Chargers, but Patriots just always find a way to get there. And I think I don't know, always a safe bet. I'd go Saints and Patriots.
Yeah, that was where I'm going to go for the exact same reasons. Like, I want to pick Kansas City. I think Kansas City's probably better, but it's one of those where it's hard to pick against the Patriots. And I don't know. I think they're slow playing it a little bit. Like, probably not intentionally, but they're better than they look. So yeah, that would be exactly my pick as well.
I think I've got the Saints and the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are good enough to overcome the Patriots this year. I think the offense is good enough to do it. But some crazy stuff going on in the AFC. Did you guys know the Texans have won 7 straight?
Mm-hmm.
The Texans, and they're not even playing that well. Like, Deshaun Watson's not playing very well. They lost Will Fuller for the year. Like, that's crazy. And here's a question for you guys. 2 5-5 teams, the Colts and the Seahawks. Which team's better?
I was just going to say, I think the most insufferable Super Bowl that's not out of the question is Colts-Rams. Seahawks Twitter would literally melt down. That'd be amazing. The Colts seem kind of good, though. Like, Andrew Luck's playing pretty well. Like, I haven't watched them a lot or anything, but
they have the best offensive line from what people are saying. I haven't seen enough of them, but that's what I'm hearing.
Well, they seem to be going up. They've won 4 straight. So they're kind of creeping up.
I mean, yeah, go ahead, Nathan.
No, like I was just they're legit in the playoff picture. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's thrown 3 touchdowns or more in, like, I don't know, the number of games in a row. So, interesting things going on in the AFC. And as we kind of wrap up here, let's go with the what you got wrong. It's always something that people look forward to us telling them we're incorrect about something. We'll throw it over to Will, and I'll give you a couple seconds to think. But this can be something that you got wrong about this last game. It can be something you've got wrong about the season so far. About a specific player. On your mind, what's something you've got wrong right now?
I'll go with the most recent game. I thought that we were going to give Aaron Rodgers fits at home again, as we seem to always do in recent years, and he absolutely seemed to torch us. I mean, were there really people out there saying that he had a bad game? Because, to my recollection, it seems like some of those throws were just phenomenal. I mean, like, literally unbelievable. Like that 3rd and 9 throw to Devontae Adams, I think it was Jaron Reed in his face. Just tosses it 50 yards, no problem, just right in his hands. I mean, I don't know. I thought that just the home crowd and Aaron Rodgers coming to town, we were going to give him problems, and he torched us. So I was wrong about that.
Well, Nathan, I would actually say that the Seahawks gave Aaron Rodgers more trouble than I would have thought. I think he definitely had 2 ridiculous throws that were, elite level, beyond Hall of Fame, legendary level, but sacked 5 times and threw some really crappy throws that, like, I just have never seen Aaron Rodgers throw passes like that. But I get it. Nathan, what have you got wrong? What's on your mind that?
I think I need to start making more hot takes or something. I'm having trouble to come up with stuff. I mean, I don't like I said earlier, I'm still in wait and see mode with Rashad Penny. But he has been out of nowhere. He's been way better the last 2 weeks than I thought he was going to be at any point this year. So I don't know where he ends up, but I think I've definitely been wrong about what I thought he'd end up contributing to this team this year.
Yeah, I was definitely going to go with Penny as well. As someone who's been pretty hard on him, he hasn't convinced me that he's going to be great by any stretch, but he's shown something. He's actually made players miss. He's had a few plays that looked like professional running back plays, making a defender one-on-one grasp at straws. That's grasp at air, I should say. Like, that's progress. It's nice to see. So, I guess I'll qualify as wrong at that. I will also say I was wrong in that I was sure that Mike McCarthy was going to go for it on 4th and 2. I can't believe that they punted that ball. And I'm so happy that they did. So let's go ahead, Nathan.
Did you hear Ken Norton's comment about it afterwards?
I did not.
I don't remember what it was either, but he basically said the exact same thing, that, thank God he didn't go for it, that he was terrified they were gonna, and he was really happy when they punted.
Yeah, I just don't have much confidence in that defense. I don't think they were going to stop them on 3rd and 2, let alone do it again on 4th and 2. So,
is Mike McCarthy widely hated, or is he actually secretly so good that NFL coaches are trying to get him fired? Because what Tom Brady said, was it in the offseason or something like that, that if Rodgers played in his offense, he'd throw for 7,000 yards or something like that because he's so much more talented than he is. Brady speaking of himself, that saying that Rodgers is so much more talented. Like, and then Norton kind of comes out and is like, "Thank God he didn't go for it." Like, I mean, you don't usually see kind of other people crap on a coach quite like that.
Well, and that NFC title game in 2014, well, technically 2015. When they had Rodgers hand the ball off and get really conservative, I know there was a lot of Packers fan want McCarthy fired. They've wanted him fired for a while. They're not happy with him, and it is a view of what a team can look like with a Hall of Fame quarterback getting to 1 Super Bowl, and that's what they're looking like right now. They don't look like they're getting closer to getting back at all. I think anyway. We could talk about the Packers, but I think only so many people want to know. So, there is no guarantee just having a good quarterback means you're going to get back to contention anytime soon. I know, Nathan, you got to run, so let's get quick roundtable predictions on what you expect for this game this weekend. And Will, I'm going to start with you.
I'm going to side with history on this one and say that this is going to be a pretty low-scoring, funky-looking score. A couple days ago, my gut feeling was that Carolina was going to take this one. I don't know. I think the Seahawks just eke this one out at the end, like 17-19, some weird-looking score.
Wait, so the Seahawks win 19-17?
Yeah.
Okay. Nathan, how about you?
I kind of want to go that way, but these are 2 good offenses, and well, I mean, the Seahawks, I don't know if the Seahawks are on anything really, but I mean, I think it's 2 defenses that aren't great. And so I think this one might actually kind of reverse history a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if this is kind of a 34-28 or so I'll go 34-28. I think I picked all these games way too high. I picked way too many points. I'm gonna go Seattle.
34-28.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, so evidence there. The Seahawks, other than the Chargers game where they just laid an egg on offense and just couldn't figure themselves out for a while, they've gone 27-31, 28, 27, 31. In 5 of their last 6 games. So the Seahawks are scoring 27 or more pretty much every game. And there's no reason to expect that against this defense that they'll do any worse, other than if Schottenheimer tries to run into the strength of the defense. My gut instinct is 17-13 Panthers, but my heart, I'm going to go a different direction. Is I think the Seahawks end up winning this 27-21. So we got 3 of us predicting a Seahawks win. It's going to be a tough one, going to be a big one. Last thing before we go, favorite Thanksgiving dish you're looking forward to tomorrow?
Stuffing.
Okay, is it a cornbread? Is it any specific kind?
It's the kind my grandma makes every year.
Nice.
It's pretty good.
Nice. Okay. Will, how about you?
We've got a tradition in our family. My dad is a deep fried turkey every year, and it is phenomenal every year. So I'm always looking forward to that.
Awesome. For me, it is definitely the sweet potato casserole. So, folks, thank you for joining Thanksgiving Eve. I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving. If you haven't already, speaking of giving, sign up at patreon.com, patreon.com/hawkblogger. Join and be an insider. All our proceeds end up going to a great charity in Ben's fund, helps parents that can't afford expensive autism treatments. So be great to have you aboard, and just hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving. Enjoy a day of eating, football, family, and take care. Let's go Hawks.